Hello, dearest teacher. Thank you for being with us.
I need to switch cameras, so let me just do that. There we go. My computer is acting up again, so I'll do the best I can. I think I figured out one part of the problem. I have a new wireless headset for my dictation software. And sometimes, I haven't figured out exactly what it is, but sometimes there's some kind of interference that causes the mouse cursor to go to the top of the text out of nowhere. So I'm dealing with that, hopefully not today. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Let's offer the mandala. So if you'll make the mudra, we'll do that. Here is the great earth filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niratayam Me. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create, from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create, from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create, from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. Okay. Let's start by rejoicing. Let's see, we don't have many people here today. Evgeny, what can you rejoice about?
Всем здравствуйте.
Hello everyone. Today I would like to rejoice that my karmic partner with whom we are practicing for a year, he obtained the first results, and it's good enough, and it brings happiness to me and my partner, and I rejoice that I can listen to Dharma and can spread it and tell people. It depends on how I can do it as a human being.
Okay. Good. Yes. My wife and I were just talking about this last night and this morning about how fortunate we are that we can help spread the Dharma, both in helping build Diamond Mountain and then teaching as much as we do. So I understand your joy and rejoicing in that, Evgeny. That's great. Okay, Svetlana, you're up.
Hello, Venerable Sumati. Hello, everyone. Today I would like to rejoice that I was able to fix some issues at my home place. I found a worker who mended my tubes in the kitchen and changed lamps. And I tried to use 4 steps to do some rejoicing when I helped others before. And then seeds ripens that I found a good worker on the platform, and he did it all with a reasonable price. And after that, I gave good like recommendation, and he also wrote that it was nice for him to communicate with me. So I rejoice that by using wisdom in our life, we can solve issues which can be disturbing, but we can do it in a nice way.
Very good. Well, that's the whole point of the rejoicing practice and our Dharma practice in general, is to create happiness for others, and in doing so, make our life easier. And you're seeing that by your approach and understanding when someone works for you, to thank them and appreciate them just as you would want to be appreciated. So excellent, excellent. Okay, Natalie.
Thank you, dear Lama Sumati. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. So yesterday I had a very interesting coincidence. I'm so grateful that this happened. I was buying some water from the store, and I went through the self-checkout. And then when I was putting my groceries in the car, I realized that I got 6 waters and I only paid for 5. And so I was like, oh, I need to go back. And it was really clear to me, because it was just $1.60. It wasn't a big amount, but it was so clear to me that it's coming. It doesn't matter what the amount it is, but it's coming from it's a deed that will, if I don't do it, it will ripen in something not good. And so I went back and I paid. And when I was coming out of the store, I was like feeling like a real hero.
Very good. You're absolutely right. That's even that tiny amount will grow, and the goodness, instead of a bad deed, now you have a good deed that's growing. And I think it's very easy for us to think, well, it's not very much money, so it doesn't matter. But as we know, karma ripens and grows. So very good. I know the feeling of feeling like a hero. You've done something right. You kind of want to look around and see if anybody's noticed. Okay, Jackie, how about you?
Thank you, dearest angels, dearest Lama Sumati. Deeply grateful that we're back together, and deeply grateful to be able to be taking care of family, from offering rides to just stepping in and being the support that family need in the time that they need it when they call, that I can be there for them and help to make them feel more helpful and peaceful and calm. And may we all have the support, and may we all have angels that come to us when we need the support for our family, and for anyone that we see that needs support, may we give it to them too. Thank you.
I think all of you have raised this issue of angels, so we'll talk a little bit about that today as well. Okay, my turn. What do I have to rejoice in? Well, I did my neurology test, and that was fairly anticlimactic because it's a bunch of questions, so there's no real data that anybody, it's not like I have results from a blood test or something. So the results need to be interpreted, and they won't tell me the results, but they'll tell my neurologist that ordered the test. So I'm kind of wondering about that, but that'll be in July 15th. I have the meeting with Dr. Bradley. So I've had karma ripen recently where stuff I've asked for and waited patiently for has been denied. And I must admit I was not happy with it, but I didn't get upset. I wasn't so much unhappy, I was disappointed, which are two different emotions for me. And so I thought about it and I thought, you know, I'm just going to see if there's some way we can get at least part of this information. Because what I really need are the dates and the days that the dates the program started and the launch dates. And I just find it hard to believe that's classified. So I emailed the safe paper office at Maxwell Air Force Base, and I laid out the case for my getting some information from the documents. And so the head of the safe paper office said it will take her some time, but she'll go through each of the papers and see if there's anything she thinks we can release. So what happens, and this is a karmic ripening that I need to try and figure out. What happens is they prefer to have someone who's knowledgeable of the subject declassify something. So if you're an expert in the Titan II missile, they'll send you something to declassify. But if they run out of experts because all the experts for Titan II have retired or died, then they send it to someone who's not so well versed. And that person has to take the responsibility. If they declassify something and it wasn't supposed to be declassified, then it's their fault. So the easy solution is to not declassify. That way you can't get blamed or get in trouble. So I've got to figure out the karma, what my karmic deeds were. Well, let's see if we can figure that out. What would be the karmic deed that would ripen with someone not taking responsibility? Given a task and ignoring it, and not completing the task, or finding reasons not to do the task. I did a lot of that when I was younger. My dad used to say, if he gave me something to do, he'd never see it done because I keep putting it off. But this isn't putting it off. This is just saying no. So I'll have to work on that. But I didn't get mad. I am a little worried about the quality of the article I'm writing because I need those dates. So I have one more historian that owes me some, well, I have two that owe me some material. One, I know a person who knows the boss, the head of the organization I'm writing to. And so he said I could drop this general's name. So I wrote to this historian and I said, General Hanrocker gave me your information and I should contact you. So she knows that the general asked me to do it. Now, sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. So that's going to take a while to find out. The other one is a direct historian at Edwards Air Force Base. And it sounds, I had to get a letter from the Air Force saying I could have the information. So part of me is getting my hopes up that I'm actually going to get the information. And the other part of me thinks he's going to run into the same problem and I'm not going to get any of it. So, as much as I wanted this to be resolved this week with all the information I need, it isn't. But that's okay. It's hot here. I'm rejoicing that we have air conditioning. What temperature is it now? It's 104, but it's not humid. I'm rejoicing our monsoon started a month early. we had almost 1.5 inches of rain last week. And that usually doesn't happen till mid-July. So hopefully that means the monsoon's here and it's going to be a good wet monsoon. We could use the water. Where I live in Tucson, there's no danger. If we get damaged by floods, it's biblical and there's not much I can do about it. Natalia, where you live, you're in San Antonio?
I'm in Dallas. Yeah, we have a lot
Dallas.
of heat, lots of heat. Heat warning
Yeah.
today.
But you don't have to worry about flooding, right? There's
We are in with the flooding zone, in the flooding zone.
really what a river?
Yes, Trinity River.
I've flown into Dallas many times. I remember a large reservoir, but I don't remember a river. Oh well. Are you close to the river? Do we have to worry about your flooding?
We are close to the river. I don't think we have to worry about the flooding, but we are in the flooding zone. If something happens, they say it's possible.
Well, that's why I call it biblical. If it's a biblical rain, if it's biblical, we're all screwed anyway.
Yeah.
How about you, Jackie? Do you live is there a river that goes through Canberra? I don't remember.
We have lakes.
That's right. Lake Burley
Yeah,
Griffin.
that's right. Yes.
Is the fountain still operating in Lake
Yes.
Burley Griffin? Now, for the rest of you, I was in Canberra for 6 months in 1968, 69. So we're talking oh my God, that's over 50 years ago, half a century. Canberra must look a lot different than it did when I was there.
Yeah.
Oh well. Okay. So today's class is a little bit strange in that in working through the tape, he repeated himself quite a bit, and his students were asking him questions he didn't want to answer. So I'm going to read part of the homework for class 8. I haven't given you the homeworks because he doesn't follow. Often in the classes, he doesn't say what the homeworks are about. So I found this homework pretty interesting. But before we do that, he talked a lot about how apparently students were asking him to skip through and move forward into tantric kinds of things. And he said he couldn't do that. He said it was very important to follow the steps of the path as they're given in the Lam Rim Chenmo, period. Skipping to the end, other than the meditation part, skipping to the end of the Lam Rim in terms of Tantra is a really bad idea. And I'm running across that for my Tara and Jainong I'm giving in a couple of weeks. Students are upset that they have to qualify for it, but they do. And part of the problem is the people that were organizing it. Well, we had Europeans that were qualified, and then the Russian and Ukrainian students wanted to come, which was fine, but they didn't have necessarily the training, the vow, the refuge commitments, and the lifetime layperson and bodhisattva vows. So we're scrambling to get them qualified to take the class. The point being, it's not that when we say it's secret because if you don't study properly and are qualified for it, you can do significant damage, both in the spiritual aspect and not understanding it and thinking it's mumbo jumbo or weird because you haven't been trained in it. So if you're tempted to read a tantric text, I strongly urge you not to do it until you've been trained or given an initiation in that deity. As tempting as it may be, as interesting as it seems, it's simply a bad idea. In the front of any book on Tantra, it should say, if it's a qualified, well-written Buddhist book, it should say something to the line. So if you don't have initiation, you should not read this text. If it doesn't have that, then it shouldn't be read anyway. And if it does have it, don't ignore it. That's the surest way to not get the tantric teachings you want, is to delve into it without the training. So that's my word of caution. Okay, so what I'd like to do now before we get into the homework text is I would like, we'll give you 10 minutes. I want you to think about what brought you to the Dharma. What event brought you to the Dharma? Was it something really bad happening? Was it just curiosity? What got you to the point of knowing you needed to study, not only listen to the Dharma, but study it and take the classes and hopefully do the homeworks and quizzes and final? So it's, what time do I have here? It's 1:20. Let's get back at 1:30. And if you're not comfortable sharing, that's okay. But I'd really be curious to hear what your story is. Okay. We'll be back to see you in 10 minutes. We can wait a few more minutes. You need more time? You okay? Well, I've got quite a story to tell, but I'll wait till the end. Evgeny, what brought you to the Dharma?
To Dharma, my acquainted girl brought me to Dharma, who for several years don't study, don't practice on this path, but I stay and continue to do it almost for 4 years. But my story was very easy. I read several books of Geshe Michael and tried to practice it, and it was nothing. But in a year, he brought me to the first ACI course, and still I'm here.
Was there a specific event that got you started on the Dharma? Something happened in your life that the Dharma seemed to be helpful with?
When I started to study it and read books, I understood that it has some meaning and some depth and some practice. So that I do it this way, my life will be changed. There are some concrete actions, there are some steps which should be done, what should be done, and what I'm supposed to think about.
Okay, well, you'll see in a minute when I describe what happened to me, or what I'm talking about. Okay, Natalia.
Okay, so this is not, there was many different things that happened, but one of them was that I am having difficulties with my husband, in a relationship with my husband, and I heard Geshe Michael explain on YouTube. He was telling a story about a woman, an old lady who was coming to his retreats over and over again, and he said she was so sad. And when he asked her, why are you so sad? She said that she is not happy in her marriage with her husband. And then one time she's coming to a retreat and she's all happy, and he asked her, why are you happy? And she says, my husband died. And Geshe Michael says, this is not the right way to do it. There are other ways to fix the relationships. And so I started listening to him.
That's new. I haven't heard that
You
version
haven't
before.
heard it? Yeah, that was.
That's, well, okay. But whatever takes, whatever brought you to the Dharma, there's no right and a wrong. The point is that the Dharma somehow filtered into your life and you've pursued it. So, okay, Svetlana, how about you?
Yeah, I can tell like maybe a little bit like longer. Like in 2013, I went to internship to Switzerland, and I like this country very much. And I asked people, what should I do to move to that country to be successful as they are, and etc. And they like did gave some advices like you need to work hard, like reach some principles and some advices were given. Well, then during those 6 years, maybe I tried, but maybe not so diligently. I tried to work hard, to earn money, to follow some principles in my life, and it was a total mess. Like I couldn't imagine that it can happen with me because my relationships with my mother were very crazy, were very bad. And at work, even I had good education. I was like occupied the lowest position, and then I was laid off. And then when my friend offered me like a prestigious job as it is supposed, but this job was with immoral principles and with such stuff which I think is unethical, and I couldn't imagine that people can do that. And then I was started to ask, why is it happening with me? And then pandemic started, and I was desperate because I couldn't imagine that all of this can happen. I couldn't imagine. I was lost. And then I was watching on YouTube Pen's story, and it was interesting. And then I started to watch Peachtree news when Peachtree Cafe, where like Geshe Michael with his friends were supporting people from all around the world and giving advices how to be kind in different situations. Yeah, and then I sent playlist and I was a winner, and it was amazing. And then I started to listen to the Lam Rim teachings, and from those moments, like I started to dive deeper to understand how there is nothing that doesn't come from how we are kind to other people.
Wow. That summarizes the world in the last 10 years. Very good. It's interesting the effect the pandemic had. Something that's bad, a worldwide illness, got you into the Dharma. So was it really bad? That's something we're going to discuss later as well. Okay, me. Geshe Michael talks about there being some event that makes you stop and try and figure out why the world's working the way it is, or does it seem to be broken. And that happened for us when we got a phone call that my lovely wife's parents' plane had gone off the radar screen and apparently crashed in the water off of Monterey. And they'd gotten a distress call that they were going into the water. And the Coast Guard went out to look for them and found her dad's flight jacket and a flight case and a seat cushion, but nothing more. So we didn't know at the time that had happened. We just got a phone call from her oldest brother asking if we knew where mom and dad were. And we said we thought they were flying up to see a family friend up in Marin County. Was it Marin County? Sonoma County. She was a part of the wine business up there. So we sat and we wondered why something like that would happen to two such wonderful, wonderful people. Next to my lovely wife, they're my best friend. They were my best friends. And we did all sorts of things together. And they were very generous and helpful with everything we did. I paid that back as much as I could. I was taught many, many lessons by them about serving others. So I was busy with my career and didn't do much more than that. And Sarani was busy with her career, but she wanted to know why this had happened. So she started going to different philosophical meetings around town or on the internet. The internet wasn't, this is back in 1987. The internet was not what it is today. And so she went to various courses, various teachers, and nothing really hit. Then we found out His Holiness was coming to Tucson for the first time. And we decided we'd go to that because she was taking some classes with the Theosophical Society and they didn't quite make sense. So she got a ticket. I, like an idiot, didn't because I had more important things to do, my work, which in hindsight was ridiculous. But so she went and we hosted a nun. And this nun was maybe 18 years old and needed things for her hut that she lived in. So we got her a light and a few other things that helped her and took meals. I made meals for them and dropped them off at the teachings and all that kind of thing. And my wife had something really cool happen. She was sitting with a nun, and all of a sudden the nun out on the grass outside the hotel, and all of a sudden the nun got up and started doing prostration. And my wife turned around and looked, and His Holiness was coming toward them with his security detail. And she didn't meet him personally, but she got awfully close. So that was kind of a sign. So we had taken classes preparing ours. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. So after that, she was interested in Buddhism, and His Holiness wasn't going to come back, but 5 teachers from the 5 main, I think it was 5, from the different lineages were going to be present on the stage in Tucson, which happens very rarely. So we took a course from one of His Holiness's students that lived in Tucson, and we took a course to prepare for that teaching. And the course really struck us as being very interesting. We then teamed up with the Bodhisattva Institute and took some more courses and went to His Holiness's teachings. And one day we got a flyer in the mail saying that somebody named Geshe Michael Roach was coming to Tucson, was going to give a talk on the Diamond Cutter Sutra. So they said he was an American monk. So we immediately thought, wow, we'll get a teaching that doesn't require translation. So we went to the teaching and he taught Course 6, which for those of you who haven't taken it is a fairly deep course on emptiness. So that was our introduction to the Dharma, getting a course from Holy Geshe Michael on the Diamond Cutter Sutra. But what happened was we got a wake-up call because 2 really wonderful people seemingly died for no reason, and it wasn't fair, etc. And the more we learned about the Dharma, it was obviously clear it was our karma to see them die the way they did because of our past deeds. And we both liked the idea that we were responsible. Our karma ripening is why they died. They didn't die because they died because their karma ran out for a living. but they didn't die because some God thought it was a great idea to show us something. So we liked it because it was our karma ripening. If we didn't like that kind of thing happening, we needed to do something to stop it. So stretch that forward to my getting laid off from the university and allowing me to move to Diamond Mountain and become operations manager, or move that forward to the 3-year retreat, or move that forward to my getting Parkinson's. It all was, in some cases, dramatic and traumatic. In other cases, it was just dramatic. For instance, I knew nothing about water systems when I was at a meeting standing with Geshe Michael and a bunch of other students. And he was talking about putting together a water system for retreat cabins. And several people piped up and said they would do it. And I stepped forward and said, I live here, Geshe Michael, I live here. Please let me be in charge of it. But I knew nothing about water systems. So that's the kind of effect Geshe Michael had on me, was it instilled on me to do something I wasn't that comfortable doing. So he gave the task to me. And again, that reinforced my desire to study the Dharma, because I was outside my limit of what I knew, but someone I highly respected had confidence in me. So it doesn't have to be a traumatic event, although Geshe Michael says that's what usually makes people stop and smell the roses. So you've had the event, you found a teacher. How did you find your teacher? That's another good question. We found him by responding to an ad about a flyer concerning the Dhammapada Sutra. Jackie, how did you get introduced to Geshe Michael?
With great gratitude, my copywriting teacher that I was learning from, studying with online, Bernadette, she recommended this book in the course. And so with great joy, I read it, not initially, but when I read it, it was around the time of wanting to let go of my job, because I was very unhappy and I wanted to have something more meaningful in my life. And then I would say that I would use the word that I retired from the job. And after that, and having read the book, I then went on to the Lam Rim, which was very deep and very just jumping into it. And I remember with joy that I met Tim, because he did an introduction to this Lam Rim. And what really stuck with me was his story about the laundry lady, how he was kind of not taking good care and appreciating her. And it really woke me up to realize, well, what am I doing to other people? And then I really got into the joy of the Lam Rim, not understanding very much, but having those study groups and getting to meet friends, Rob and Rachel and various beautiful people. And then it just continued from there. So I'm deeply grateful to everyone that was involved in that journey. It's been very precious, and life is so much more meaningful. And I feel like I'm really helping others in a more beautiful way than I was before.
What career were you unhappy with?
Office work, dull, and just didn't feel like it suited my personality, and I felt very trapped.
How about, when did you meet Tim? When did the classes start for you?
This my journey's just been over 2 years, so it was 2 years ago. The exchanging self and others.
Quite recent. Well, good. I'm really glad you met the Dharma. You showed the interest that is important to have to pursue the Dharma and make it successful. And you have the chance to practice with your family. It's just perfect. Now, if you could get paid to do that, that'd be great. But you're getting paid with a currency that's better than money, although it doesn't buy you groceries necessarily. But good for you. we'll get you to Diamond Mountain somehow.
Thank you.
That's on my list of things I need to do.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
Natalia, how did you meet Geshe Michael and the Asian Classics Institute?
How I met Geshe Michael, I saw them online on YouTube, just suggested, and then very shortly I heard, like, I was wondering how to get to his teachings, and the next one was Medicine Buddha in October. So I just booked and went there.
Is that the time we met, or had you been there before that?
Last year, October was the first time.
So that's where, I think that's when we met, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Wow, wow. I remember that quite well. Well, good. Yeah, it's a complex journey, and to appreciate the journey and understand the journey and to stick with the journey is easy to do. I found easy to do with Geshe Michael and how he teaches and what he teaches. Okay, Svetlana, how about you?
Yeah, I watched YouTube like Pen Story, and I read books
What book?
like Diamond Cutter.
Diamond Cutter?
Diamond Cutter, the first one, I guess. Yeah.
Ah,
Because I was interested about business success, and it was about
Mm.
business success, and I presented this book to my father, telling, look, you taught me the same things, look, it's written here. Like because yeah, it was very interesting, and he read this book and he also appreciated. Yeah,
was it in English or in Russian?
in Russian.
No kidding. Wow. Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah. Well, one other story to relate. Well, I've got many, but this one's maybe one of the best ones. So let's see, how'd this work? We went to a teaching he gave on how karma works at Vajrapani Institute in Santa Cruz. And during that course, we were very interested in the homeworks and quizzes, which we had learned about in the Diamond Cutter. And we did the homeworks and quizzes and final. And we were taking that course, and he just casually mentioned they were going to go into a 3-year retreat. And when they got done with the retreat, the only students who could go into the Tantra class were ones that had completed courses 1 through 18 and did all the homeworks and quizzes and had certificates. So I remember distinctly in the car driving home, looking at my wife and said, we both said almost simultaneously, let's take the courses, let's get them all done, and we'll be ready to hopefully be admitted to the Tantric series. So that's what we did. We ordered the notebooks and got 2 big boxes of notebooks, and back in the day, cassette tapes. I don't even know if they give out the tapes anymore, but nothing was online. Online really didn't exist at that point. That's how old I am. Online didn't exist at that point. And we got it and we started studying, and what we found, and I don't know if this is the same for you guys, what we found is if we didn't set up a schedule and stick to it, we would put off studying. So the first course we studied, we did a class, and then we did the homeworks and quiz, and maybe a week or 2 later we did the next one, and we stopped and did the math, and that wasn't going to get us through the courses by the time he got out of retreat. So we settled into a schedule. Monday night, listen to a tape, do the homework. do the reading and homework. Tuesday, take the quiz. No, I think Monday we did the reading. Tuesday we did the homework. Wednesday we took the quiz. And Thursday we started the next class. So we were doing 2 classes a week, but we had a schedule. We took a day off, but we had a schedule and it worked very nicely. We got through the classes in plenty of time, but in a nice, controlled manner. And that's how inspiring the coursework was and the way Geshe Michael taught it. Then we had to take the 3 review courses in person. So well, I don't know if I relayed to you how we got involved with the retreat center. One day I got a phone call from a student who's no longer a student of Geshe Michael's, but he called and said they were going to be setting up something called a 3-year retreat and they needed help, volunteers. So I had 2 weeks worth of vacation time coming my way. So I got clearance to be gone from the lab because in the university, your boss can say, no, you can't leave. You're in the middle of something I need you to do. So I got a chance to leave. I rented an RV and got all my tools and went to this Diamond Mountain, what they call Diamond Mountain West, and parked and said, what can I do to help? And they said, we're building yurts. So that's when I got the first contact, real contact after the diamond cutter class, got the contact with Geshe Michael. And there was a very interesting thing that happened, I thought, for me, was we were putting in the foundations for the yurt. So we had to get the pilings level and the main beams level for them to build the yurt. And that's what my wife and I were asked to do. So we had a method to the madness and we were doing that. And one day, one of the students ran over and said, Geshe Michael's coming, Geshe Michael's coming, you have to come. So we went over to meet him with a bunch of other people, like maybe 30 other people. And I didn't know at the time that what I was about to do was a bad idea. So they showed me where he was going to have his retreat cabin, and it was going to be built right on top of a ground squirrel mound, which was a really bad idea. So I just said, very humbly, I said, Geshe Michael, you don't know me from Adam, but I would recommend you don't build on top of that ground squirrel midden because you'll have them in your yurt within minutes. And everybody in the group was going, who gasped. I mean, I was saying something to Geshe Michael that I shouldn't say, but I said it respectfully, and there was no reason I couldn't say it. So I think they thought he was going to look at me and go, who are you? Instead, he said, well, that sounds reasonable. Where would you like me to move it? And I said, over here. And he goes, okay, let's do that. And I was like, okay, he liked my idea. But later I heard many people came up to me and said, you disagreed with your Lama. That was a bad idea. And I thought, well, it didn't seem bad to him. So maybe it's bad to you. But that got me the reputation with Geshe Michael that allowed me later. Lama Christian, he allowed me to make decisions, check with them, but make decisions for Diamond Mountain based on what they had taught me. So that was a huge responsibility for me, but I really appreciated his trust and his confidence in what I was doing was good for Diamond Mountain. But I wasn't afraid when I was in charge of making sure the permits were in order for the buildings and that we were doing things properly with building codes. And that got people upset because they wanted to just build what they wanted to build. And Geshe Michael, in front of everybody, had said, David's in charge of making sure these buildings are safe, so you need to follow his instructions. So I didn't stop people from building what they wanted to build. I just made sure if they built it, they built the code. So again, I was given some responsibility, and I needed to be careful not to misuse it. And that's something that's easy to do in a Dharma center, is to think you're doing it right and you're ending up doing it wrong. Okay, well, let's get on to the, I'm going to look through and read parts of the Class 8 homework. It's about the person who would go to India to make a final attempt to bring Lord Atisha to Tibet. So here we go. The Tibetan king Chanchu made prayers to the three jewels and performed Mo divinations. Do you know what the Mo divination is? Okay, we do that at Diamond Mountain. There's a book called The King of the Dharma, which is the history of Geshe Michael, not the history of Geshe. Well, we think he's a reincarnation of Tsongkhapa, but it's a history, the life of Tsongkhapa, based on, I think it's 15 drawings, a set of 15 drawings that are now known nationally and worldwide to be the history of Tsongkhapa's life. An interesting story about that, they were a gift to one of the senior nuns, to Venerable Jigme, when she became fully ordained. And she got them and showed them to me, and I asked her politely whether I could take them to Tucson and get them scanned in high definition to make sure to preserve them. And she said yes. So I got these very high quality 600 DPI scans and had them on my computer for all the time they did retreat. And when they came out, they wanted to write this book, The King of the Dharma book. And Geshe Michael said, we need copies to work from on my computer. Does anybody have copies? I said, well, I just happened to have scanned them all. And he said, excellent. So he used those. And I was able to help with making the King of the Dharma book a reality. That was pretty cool. I digress on the photographs. What was the point of this story? Oh, the Mo. So what you do for a Mo is you close your eyes, you take the King of the Dharma book, you open it, and you run your finger down a page and stop. And then you read that paragraph or sentence and try and understand what it's telling you about your future, the next year. You don't need to do the King of the Dharma. You can take any Dharma book, but King of the Dharma is pretty cool. We could do a Mo where I open a page and you tell me when to stop running my. Maybe we'll do that next class. I think we'll try that. That'll be fun. Okay, so the king was doing Mo's, and not so Lotsawa's name repeatedly came up as the right person to induce Lord Atisha to come to Tibet. The monk did not appear to have any other special qualifications for the task. He never traveled at all and was quite dismayed by being asked to represent the king in this vital undertaking, which would affect all of Tibet for generations to come. It appears that the main thing which helped him make up his mind to go was simply that the king, while asking him to take on the journey, burst into tears. Lotsawa also started crying and heard himself saying, yes, I will do it, without realizing it. His story sounds a lot like the novel The Hobbit and the story of our own lives. We find ourselves in present times in a unique situation. We have ourselves met with the Dharma in a very authentic and pure lineage, and perhaps we feel that otherwise we have no special qualification or expectation that we should be playing an historic role in the evolution of our planet. It seems though that we are meant to take a lesson from Lotsawa. He had a simple desire to help people of Tibet. He just went at it day by day, step by step, working his way to India, following the currents of his life and doing the best to reach his goal. If you stop to think about it, this was all by foot or on the back of a donkey or a horse back in the day. And yet he changed the history of the world in a very real way. He is responsible for our meeting the Dharma as well. If we just continue with our study and practice steadily, modestly, like Lama, then we will indeed become qualified to help the many people in the world who need a true spiritual path, and thus make it our own mark upon the evolution of this planet and into an enlightened mandala. What strange event happened to Lama and his traveling party as they approached the fortress of the capital of Nepal? And what lesson does it contain for our own life? As Lama and his companions approached the fortress of the capital of Nepal, they were met by a lone traveler on the road who said to them, "You look as though you're making a journey to a faraway land, and with some great purpose. I suggest, while you're on the road, you repeat yourself the following words over and over. I bow down to the three jewels. May the holy Dharma, which is the source of all the enlightened beings of the past, present, and future, come to flourish in the land of snows. Do so, repeat this all the time, and the goal of your journey will be accomplished without any great problems along the way." Lama asked him who he was, but the man said simply, "You will find out in good time." We learned later that he was an emanation of Dromtonje, the magical layman who facilitated all of Lord Atisha's work in Tibet. During the entire trip, especially in the tense times at the Vikramasila monastery, as they attempted to convince Lord Atisha to come, this mysterious figure, Dromtonje, appears as an old man, as a nobin, and as a young boy. We've already decided that we're all the lowly hobbit who's going to play a starting role in saving the world, just like Lama. It's natural then that divine beings are going to emanate from time to time around us at critical moments, guiding us and pulling off those small miracles without which we would never succeed. We can start looking out for these angels now, enjoying sort of a reverse paranoia, where we begin to believe that we're surrounded by people who are not what they seem, trying to shepherd us to enlightenment. So I encourage you to do that. It's a tantric practice, but it's okay to talk about. My wife and I do what we call looking for angel signs. We look for movies that have angel messages. We try and take a movie and convert it into an angel message. We tend to stay away from action films, which saddens me because I like action films, but we tend to watch romantic comedies. But when we watch them, we try and see where the Dharma is being taught in any way. And it's amazing how many times we'll hear a turn of phrase, maybe in the background, it's a Dharma teaching. So I encourage you to look for people in your life that are angels. It can be the checker out at a grocery store. It can be a waitress at a restaurant. It can be a fellow student. Look for them and respect them and treat them the way you would somebody you really believe in. And you'll be surprised how quickly your karma ripens for that to happen. So they reach the gates of the monastery at night after they've been closed and locked against intruders, not to be reopened until morning. A Tibetan sticks his head out of a small window in the wall and tells them to come back in the morning, but to leave their gold, about $4 million worth, in a little nook in the wall and not to worry about it. Unquote. unquestioningly, they followed his advice. What's the lesson to be learned here for us? Lotsawa and the team were obviously being taken care of by beings who are way beyond their understanding, and they seem to have been aware of it. They have been practicing well and have taken upon themselves a very major project to help all living beings. This is creating karmic seeds all along the journey to run into, or more precisely, to create those holy beings. Something within them tells them to trust these beings, and herein is the lesson for us. In our journey to perfect our own understanding and thus become someone who can be of real help to others, we learn to trust implicitly the divine forces and beings that seem to show up in our life to guide us. It is important to realize that this instinct to trust the divine is one more source of karmic seeds. The more we trust, the more we will leave ourselves completely and unquestionably vulnerable to those who strike us as holy beings. Then the mere seeds we plant to live in their world and to help others will ripen quickly. Geshe Sangye, a Tibetan monk who had been staying near Lord Atisha for some time, trying to induce him to come to India, greeted Lotsawa and his companions and gives them the advice on how to approach the head of a monastery whose name is Master Ratnakar, in order to their request about Lord Atisha to be granted. So what can we learn about the relationship between our own teacher from this exchange? What might be called Lama etiquette is the first and greatest subject of all the steps to enlightenment. There is a constant admonition throughout all levels of the spiritual path that we should never trouble or upset our Lama's heart. Almost all the advice that Lotsawa receives at this point is aimed at assuring that it does not accidentally cause any problem or concern for the Lamas. Those who have had the honor of serving a High Lama closely understand this idea of timing. Normally, the demands upon any main teacher are extensive. As Lord Atisha puts it, I hold many keys, meaning that over the years, every major teacher accumulates more and more responsibilities in serving the needs of others. This means that the disciple or attendant has to be learned carefully the art of juggling when it's right to approach the teacher, the Lama, with a question or an issue that they believe requires their attention. Briefly put, the highest form of spiritual practice, meaning, of course, the form of spiritual practice which best serves the needs of every living being, is to create our heart teacher and then assist them in their holy work. We do our best to learn how to render this assistance transparently, with as little wear and tear, with a little concern on Lama's part. We want them to stay in our world indefinitely, and so we plant the seeds for this by doing our best to help them, that their day runs smoothly as possible. Holy beings like the angel of companion Avalokiteshvara, or the Lady of Liberation Tara, appeared to Lord Atisha and encouraged him to come to Tibet and spread the Dharma. They want him, though he does not know much about their situation. The holy beings inform Lord Atisha that if he does decide to go to help the Tibetans, then this will shorten his life by some 20 years. If he goes to India, he will live to the age of 52. If he doesn't go, he will stay and live to the age of 93. 73 back then was an incredible age to live to. But 72 was, and 93 was even better. His dates are somewhat contradictory in the literature, but his traditional source, the dates for his traditional birth and passing dates are 982 born, 1054 when he died. So that meant he was 18, he was 72 when he died. That's not bad for back then. Of course, Lord Tisha did decide to go, knowing very clearly that this would cost him 20 years of his life. As our text itself says, the Lord then thought to himself, if I can be some help to the Lam Rim students and their learning the Lam Rim, then I should stay and help. But he didn't want to stay in Tibet. That meant he was going to stay, going to go to Tibet and stay and bring them into the world of Dharma. This situation applies equally to ourselves every hour of the day. We are constantly confronted with the decision on how much time we will give to our practice of the Dharma, how much time we will sacrifice tending to the needs of others. The lesson that we learn from Lord Tisha here is that we can rest assured that the best thing we can do is to give our time, give as much of our time as we can, that the very purpose of a human life is to help others, to work with others. This begins with an extra, and this begins with that extra hour, half an hour of sweeping the Dharma Center after program has ended and everybody else has gone home. You want to get enormous credit, Dharma credit. And when you come to Diamond Mountain or you go to any Dharma Center, at the end of the teaching, go up and ask the appropriate person what you can do to help. How can I help clean up? The important thing, though, is to ask, because most Dharma centers have a place for things to go, and they like to follow a routine. So if you go to a Dharma center and want to help, do the right thing and ask. Okay, that's all of Lotsawa's story we're going to cover today. So I think that's how we doing on time. Well, that's pretty close. Okay. So we have 9 and 10 lectures, 2 more lectures. And what did we say the dates were for that, Natalia? Next week?
Next week, just a second, let me open the email.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't. Oh, I can open my.
No, I can do it. So it's Tuesday, June 2nd and Friday, June 5th.
Okay. That'll be 9 and 10. Then we're doing the Waitara teaching. Then I'm going into retreat for the month of August. So we'll start up again in early September. Natalia, we'll set up some dates, maybe later. Maybe after the course, class 10, we can take a few minutes and set up the next dates. So that'll be nice. Okay, let's dedicate.
Yeah.
By the goodness of what we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. May the source of benefit and goodness to Dharma spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma taught by the Buddhists, always increase. Thank you all for being wonderful students, and we will see you next Tuesday. Is that right? Next Tuesday.
Tuesday, thank you.
Thank you, dearest Lama Sumati, and thank you to all of our beautiful angels that are supporting this teaching for us.